You can do everything right and still get refused. Your language scores, your work history, a signed offer sitting in your inbox, all of it perfect. And the application still dies, not because of anything on your side, because of something on your employer's side that you never thought to check. That's the part that gets me. By the time the refusal lands, you've spent months, sometimes a full year. And the problem was sitting in the offer the whole time. Visible, fixable, never looked at. I don't want that to be you. Hi, I'm Bella Lee, a regulated Canadian immigration consultant with Lanjo Immigration here in Nova Scotia. I help applicants review their files before they submit because once it's in, you don't get a second chance to fix it. Quick context, because the ground moved this year. As of February 2026, Nova Scotia folded 10 nominee streams into 4. If your pathway runs through a job offer, you're almost certainly in the skilled worker stream now. And there's a new clock. As of May 2026, your expression of interest expires after 12 months if it's not selected. The province is openly prioritizing people who genuinely intend to live, work, and settle here. So the margin for a sloppy job offer just got thinner. Here's the thing most applicants miss. An officer doesn't just assess you, they assess your employer, they assess the job offer itself. And they start from skepticism. They treat a job offer as a question, not a fact, until the file proves it's real. So let me walk you through the 4 places these offers die. None of them are about whether you are qualified. Most people audit the wrong half of their own application. You pour everything into your side. The language test, the credential assessment, the work history, all of that matters, but it's half the file. The other half is the employer and the job offer, and that's the half almost nobody checks before they hit submit. Trap 1. The employer can't actually sponsor you and you find out too late. Before the offer means anything, the business itself has to qualify. It has to have been an active operation in Nova Scotia for at least 2 years and in good standing with the province. Health, safety, labor, all of it. It needs a real permanent establishment here, not a virtual office, not a PO box. And most employers have to hold a valid employer registration certificate from labor standards before they can even start recruiting a foreign worker. The 2-year rule alone catches good businesses constantly. A brand new business, a startup in its first year, and there is more to clear past that. Home-based and residential address businesses get extra scrutiny and they have to satisfy special work location rules most home offices can't meet. You generally cannot be sponsored by a business you own a controlling share of, and it has to be a real, direct salary job, not commission only, and not a staffing agency placing you at someone else's work site. Here's where it gets complicated. A business can look completely legitimate to you. Storefront, staff, payroll, all of it, and still fail one of these on something you had no reason to know. The office is a house that doesn't meet the work location rules. The company is technically a placement agency. The registration isn't actually in place. I can't tell you from here whether your employer clears this bar, but it's one of the first things I check when I look at a file, because if the employer fails, nothing else you did matters. Trap 2, the wage. You think meeting minimum wage is enough, right? It isn't. The offer has to meet or beat the prevailing wage, the published median for your specific NOC in your specific region of Nova Scotia. Halifax is not Cape Breton. The Valley is not Halifax. $1 under the median for your occupation in your area and the form is deficient. Refused. And there are quieter ways this breaks. A probational training wage can't dip below the floor, even for the first few months. Your employer can't claw back recruitment costs out of your pay, not the federal compliance fee, not agency fees. An officer sees that as garnishing your wage, and it's a program integrity problem. And the wage in your offer letter has to match the wage in the job ads. If they advertise low to Canadians, got no takers, then bump the number up for you, an officer reads that domestic search as not genuine. The thing is, most people check their wage against the wrong number. Minimum wage or whatever the employer says they usually pay, that's not the test. The test is the median for your exact code in your exact region, and it moves. When I review an offer, the wage line is one of the first numbers I pull because a wage that's even slightly short is invisible to you right up until the refusal. If you've got an offer in hand and genuinely not sure it clears these, don't guess and don't submit blind. The link to book an application review is in the description, and that's where I go through a file with you step by step before you submit. Trap 3. The offer looks permanent and full-time, but only looks that way. Full-time has a number, a guaranteed minimum of 30 hours a week. Permanent means no end date, and it has to be year-round, not seasonal. And this is where Nova Scotia's economy trips people up. Landscaping, construction, fisheries, tourism, huge seasonal sectors. If your offer carries a winter layoff, even an unspoken one, it fails the year-round test. A 1-year or 2-year fixed-term contract fails permanent. A split shift or on-call role that happens to average 30 hours but doesn't guarantee them in writing fails. Commission only again fails. And this is the one that people argue with me most about. But I always get my hours. Doesn't matter. If the contract doesn't put 30 guaranteed hours a week, year-round, no end date in writing, the officer does not care what happens in practice. They read the document, not your routine. So when I go through the conditions of employment, I'm reading them the way an officer will. Is the guarantee actually on the page? Or is everyone just assuming it's there? Trap 4, and this is the hardest one. Say everything above is clean, employer qualifies, wage clears, hours guaranteed, year-round permanent. The officer still asks one more question. Is this job real, or was it built to move someone to Canada? A brand new role, perfectly tailored, that happens to match your resume exactly. An employer whose finances can realistically carry the salary they are offering, an offer that comes from a relative. And the recruitment file that prove they try to hire Canadian permanent resident first. Unless there is a positive LMIA or the job is LMIA exempt, that means 3 ads in 3 different places, at least one of them national, the federal job bank counts, each running 4 straight weeks within 6 months before the offer, plus an explanation of why no one local worked out. Pull an ad after 2 weeks, skip the duties, run it after the offer was already made, and the whole thing reads as theater. This is the part you can't self-assess with the checklist, because it isn't one. It's a judgment. The officer reads the entire file and asks, does this hang together? A genuine business, a genuine need, a genuine search. If any piece feels manufactured, the offer can be refused as not genuine, even when every box is technically ticked. And that's the real work when I review a file. Not is the paperwork present, but will an officer believe it? Those are 2 completely different questions. So here's where I'll leave you. Everything I just walked through is public. The criteria right there on the Live in Nova Scotia site, and by all means, go read them. But knowing the 4 places offers die is not the same as knowing whether yours survives. That depends on your employer's actual facts, and that's the part that you can't Google. Remember the new 12-month clock? You don't get unlimited do-overs anymore. A flawed offer can quietly burn a year you can't get back. That's the whole reason I do application reviews. A licensed pre-flight check before you submit. So problems get caught while they're still fixable, while you can still do something about them. The link to book an application review is in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in my next video.